Hello, everyone. My name is Betsy Golomski, and I'm Assistant Director of Career Management for the full-time MBA and Specialty Master's programs at the Wisconsin School of Business. On behalf of the entire team that has worked together to bring you this Inside Look Women at the Wisconsin MBA series, I'd like to welcome you to today's session. Today, I'm going to give you a crash course on some resume tips that can help you if you are considering applying to one of our graduate programs at the Wisconsin School of Business, and can also be of assistance if you are dusting off your resume for a new career opportunity. Most of you have worked on your resume over the years, and now that you are potentially thinking about graduate education or perhaps a career pivot, it's even more important to revisit your resume and make sure it's ready for prime time. Before we dive in, let's discuss what a resume is used for. Overall, there are two main purposes for resumes. The first is for you to use as a marketing tool that highlights your key skills and experiences. And the other main purpose is for employers or staff of your prospective graduate program to evaluate if you are a fit for their opportunities. It's really important to think of both of these perspectives in order to build your resume that not only gives those reviewing your resume an initial introduction of you as a candidate, but is also a clean, straightforward, and easy way for someone to understand your career story. I'd like to walk through the three most common types of resumes, which are chronological, functional, and combination. Chronological is the most common, and this is where you list your experiences in reverse chronological order, starting with your most recent experience at the top of your resume and working your way backwards through your career history. This type also includes some additional key sections such as maybe your technical skills, community involvement, certifications, and really anything else you want to highlight beyond your professional experience. The rest of the presentation will focus on the chronological type of resume, and we'll talk a little bit more about this format in the next few slides. The functional resume enables the job seeker to highlight key skills and strengths within certain functional areas, such as maybe marketing and communications or management experience, and more of these general buckets. Functional resumes are best for those that are going through career transitions or those who may have a gap in their work experience. One risk with a functional resume is that it won't tell your entire career story, good and bad, about what experience brought you to the new, or about what experience brought you to the new experience you are pursuing. Sometimes a functional resume can be perceived as an incomplete document, leaving more questions than answers about what you've been doing. A combination resume can be slightly more successful than a functional resume, allowing you to highlight a couple skill areas with descriptions and proof of accomplishments, along with a more abridged listing of your work experience, and again in reverse chronological order. This format provides more detailed information than functional, but can still be perceived as incomplete if not done correctly. If you are unfamiliar with any of these formats, a quick Google search or utilizing templates in Microsoft Word or other programs can give examples of these formats to help get you started. Let's now discuss what should go on your resume. No matter what format you utilize for your resume, the header or the name block is composed of your basic contact information and the best way to reach you. We would recommend formatting your name with the largest font on your document to make it stand out. When listing your name, you could list your full given name, or you might consider listing your nickname if that is what you prefer to be called. For example, my full name is Elizabeth Golomski, but only my mother calls me Elizabeth when she's mad at me. So I prefer to go by Betsy, and I note Betsy on my personal marketing materials. I'd suggest putting the name that you would like to go by and make sure it matches your other personal marketing materials, such as your LinkedIn profile, business cards if you have them, or if you are applying for a graduate program, make sure the name listed on your resume matches your application materials. This allows the admissions teams to know exactly whose materials are whose. In your name block, I would recommend listing your phone number, the best email to reach you at, and also a link to your LinkedIn profile. Adding your LinkedIn profile is a good way for someone to see additional experiences you have that might not fit on your resume. Also, LinkedIn allows you to customize your profile links so it can be a clean, personalized link that is more visually appealing to list on your resume. Your professional experience is where the meat of your resume should be, and this is where you can set yourself apart from the applicant pool. A well-written experience section can be the deciding factor for you to either get that interview or be considered for an opportunity, and it's essential that you spend time making sure you are highlighting and bragging about the most relevant experiences. This is your first opportunity to shout loudly about what you have accomplished in your past work that would make you a great fit for the role or graduate program you're applying for. This typically is a result of your bullets featuring action verbs to start. So think of words like created, collaborated, managed, or my personal favorite, spearheaded, and ending with results using numbers when appropriate. Whoever is viewing your resume should be able to read your document and know right away why you made a difference to that organization you worked for. In the chronological resume format, you would actually list your experiences in reverse chronological order, again, meaning your most recent experiences would be at the top of your resume and you would work your way backwards down the document. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the bullets on this sample resume. So for each of the bullets on this page, you can see an example of how many people write their resume bullets, using the first one as an example. Created and revised financial projections annually. This type of bullet is extremely common, listing what you did. Let's see how we can put more context in. So now our bullet reads, created and revised financial projections annually, contributing to a 10% profitability margin in 2 years. With this new bullet, with the first bullet, I got the what, and now I have the so what and a much stronger bullet that shows impact. Let's click through the last three in this experience to see a little bit more. So the last two in this sample insurance corporation experience show the scope of responsibility, which is one way to quantify results if you don't have numbered results. For example, I know that this person managed a portfolio of new and existing clients, but how many? What was the scope of that work? What really was she responsible and accountable for? Listing her book of business gives me a greater sense of her responsibility. What would be even better if she would have been able to tell me if she was responsible for growing that book of business. By how much? When you are working on your resume, really dig in for the good stuff. The very last bullet underneath the IT solutions position is a good example of a quantifiable result. So let me click through to show you that. So in this bullet, you can see she didn't just direct the review of the ticketing process, she did it successfully and improved it by 25%. That shows accomplishment, and that is something you should be bragging about on your resume. Each and every one of your bullets on your resume should pass the so what test. As you review, ask yourself, why was that important? How can I show the importance? Why does this make me a unique candidate? And what impact did I have on the business? If you can't answer these questions, you should maybe think about eliminating that bullet from your resume. Be sure to include an education section that showcases your undergraduate or other graduate degrees. Additionally, if space allows, we also recommend adding 1 to 2 other headings that can provide context into your involvement and abilities outside individual work experiences and education. Some areas to consider are skills you've acquired, whether technical or language related, volunteerism, how you're engaged in the community, and any awards or honors you might have received. If you are applying to one of our MBA programs, the admissions committee wants to know more about you, and this is one way to show how you are giving back. Additionally, this expanded content relates to something that we like to call the Wisconsin idea, which is very near and dear to the UW-Madison mission, and that the work and learning that we do has a broader impact beyond ourselves and our employers, and there can be a ripple effect through the local, national, and global community. Showcasing your leadership abilities, whether that comes in the form of formal leadership roles in your professional work experience or through extracurriculars you are involved in, will be important for any resume, but especially if you are considering applying for one of our Wisconsin MBA programs. Leadership is comprised of many areas, which include but are not limited to being in a role where you manage people, manage projects and initiatives, or in roles where you leverage people or resources for which you didn't have direct influence. We are often asked about the ideal length for a resume, and my personal response is usually, well, it depends. For job search and networking purposes, I usually recommend 1 page, as I really like to think of your resume as a 1-page marketing flyer that highlights your skills and accomplishments. Even if you have been in the workforce for many years, you can still fit your most relevant and impactful accomplishments on 1 page. I have seen it done. For those that are earlier in their careers, 1 page is sufficient. Again, think about the so what test and make sure everything you are putting on your resume for job search and networking purposes has a reason for being on the page. Now, if you are considering applying for one of our MBA programs, you don't necessarily have to stay within the 1-page limit for your resume. Again, if you are earlier in your career and perhaps considering the full-time MBA, a one-page resume should suffice. On the other hand, many professional MBA candidates submit a 1 to 2 page resume, while executive MBA candidates may have more to share, which is totally fine. The longer the career, and sometimes the type of career, for example, those maybe with medical degrees or PhDs, dictates a longer resume. That being said, if you do have a 2-page resume, make sure it is 2 full pages and not 1 page with just a few lines on page 2. For your admissions application, your main focus of your resume is to convey your professional and academic experiences as well as community leadership. If you are considering deleting relevant information simply to shorten the document, please leave the information if you feel it is important for presenting your story for MBA consideration. So, long answer to a simple question, but I believe everyone should have a 1-page version of their resume, but there might be certain scenarios where a longer resume is warranted. Okay, so this was a very quick crash course on some resume best practices, but I'd like to leave you with some last tips for you to think about as you work on your resume. First, make sure you are updating this regularly. I know it's kind of like pulling teeth thinking about updating your resume, but you will be so happy with yourself if this is a document that you constantly update. If you're not ready to dive into updating your resume, have some sort of way of tracking your professional accomplishments, whether it's a Word document. I personally have an email folder where I will remind myself of professional wins so that when it does come time to update my resume, I can easily go to that document or to that folder and remember, oh yeah, I did these great things within the last 6 months and they need to go on my resume. Just a few stylistic things to remember. Make sure your punctuation is consistent throughout the document. There's no right or wrong of whether you use a period after every bullet or no period, just be consistent. Make sure you're spelling out abbreviations and acronyms. We want to make sure that the person reading your resume is understanding what these abbreviations and acronyms are. And we don't want paragraphs for your bullets. Make sure they are either 1 line or 2 lines. Anything beyond that could probably be split up into a couple of bullets. A reminder, make sure everything that is on your resume has statements that are results oriented and you're using those power verbs and really showing the impact and doing that so what test. Make sure you're customizing for your audience. Always know who is going to be reviewing your resume and customize it for them. And finally, proofread, proofread, proofread. Double check for grammar and spelling errors and make sure you are submitting something that has been thoroughly vetted and that you are proud of. At the end of the day, your resume should capture what you are doing and have accomplished in your professional life. And always know your resume is a work in progress and will change as you continue to move forward in your career. Should you decide to attend the Wisconsin School of Business for your graduate business education, the career team is here to help you continue to refine and enhance your resume to get you ready for the next step of your career. On behalf of the Wisconsin MBA program staff presenting the Inside Look Women at the Wisconsin MBA series, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to learn a little bit more about ways to spruce up your resume. I hope you found these tips helpful, and I also hope to see you as a member of one of our graduate business programs in the near future. On Wisconsin!